Marcus Johnson stood frozen in his sister's hospital room, trapped by his own lies. The machines beeped steadily as his sister Sophia lay in bed, her face pale but her eyes bright with excitement despite her recent surgery. She clutched his hand tightly, looking happier than he'd seen her in months. "I can't believe I'll finally get to meet her at my wedding," Sophia said, her voice weak but filled with joy. "After all this time hearing about your amazing girlfriend, I was starting to think she wasn't real." Marcus felt his stomach twist into knots. There was no girlfriend. There never had been. For the past year he'd invented a fictional woman named Claire, to keep his family from worrying about his lonely life. As a 35-year-old billionaire who ran one of the country's largest tech companies, Marcus had no time for real relationships. His work consumed every waking moment, and the few times he tried dating, the women were more interested in his money than in him. But now, looking at his sister's hopeful face as she recovered from heart surgery, he couldn't bring himself to tell her the truth. Sophia had postponed her wedding 3 times due to her health problems. Now that doctors had finally given her the all-clear to get married next month, Marcus couldn't bear to disappoint her. "Yeah," he said, forcing a smile. "She can't wait to meet you too. And she's still going to be your date for the wedding, right? Front row, family section?" Sophia asked, squeezing his hand. Marcus nodded, the lie growing bigger by the second. "Of course. I'm just so happy you won't be alone anymore," Sophia continued. "After Mom and Dad died, I worried about you shutting yourself away with nothing but work. Claire sounds perfect for you." Perfect indeed. The fictional Claire was smart, kind, and understood his demanding work schedule. She was conveniently always busy when family gatherings happened, which had worked well until now. As Marcus left the hospital, panic set in. The wedding was in 4 weeks. He needed to find someone to pretend to be his girlfriend. No, more than that. According to his elaborate stories, Claire was practically his fiancée. They'd been dating for a year, she had moved in 2 months ago, and they were very serious. He called his assistant the moment he got into his car. "Janet, I need you to find me a date for Sophia's wedding." "A date? You mean hire an escort?" Janet asked, confusion clear in her voice. "No, not an escort," Marcus snapped. "I need someone who can pretend to be my serious girlfriend. Someone who can act the part for my family, especially Sophia." "Sir, with all due respect, why not just tell your sister the truth?" Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. "She's been through enough. This wedding is everything to her. I'm not going to disappoint her now." Janet sighed. "I'll see what I can do. Maybe an actress? Someone who can play the part convincingly?" "Yes, perfect. Set up interviews." "And Janet? Make it fast. The wedding is in 4 weeks, and this woman needs to learn everything about me by then." As he drove home to his empty penthouse apartment overlooking the city, Marcus couldn't help but feel disgusted with himself. He had built a billion-dollar empire from nothing, made decisions that affected thousands of employees, but he couldn't tell his little sister the truth about his lonely life. The interviews began the next day. Janet had found 20 women willing to play the part of devoted girlfriend for a hefty fee. Marcus sat through 18 painful meetings with actresses and models who seemed more interested in being seen on his arm at high-profile events than helping him with this personal problem. By late afternoon he was ready to call the whole thing off. Maybe he could tell Sophia that Claire had a family emergency and couldn't make it. But that would only delay the inevitable. Sooner or later he'd have to produce a girlfriend or admit the truth. "Just 2 more, Janet said, poking her head into his office. "The next one will be here in 5 minutes." Marcus nodded, rubbing his temples. "Fine. Send her in." When the door opened again, Marcus looked up from his desk, prepared to go through the motions one more time. But the words died in his throat. The woman who walked in wasn't what he expected. She wasn't dressed in expensive clothes like the others. She wore a simple blue dress that flattered her curves, her dark skin glowing under the office lights. Her hair was styled in neat braids that framed her face perfectly. But it was her eyes that caught him. Intelligent, sharp, and somehow both professional and warm at the same time. She wasn't smiling nervously like the others. Instead, she seemed calm, confident. "Mr. Johnson," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Maya Wilson. I understand you're looking for someone to play a role." Her voice was smooth and clear, her handshake firm. Marcus found himself standing up straighter. "Yes, that's right. Please sit down, Ms. Wilson." As they talked, Marcus learned that Maya wasn't an actress or model. She was a children's book author who sometimes taught creative writing at the local community college. She'd heard about the position from a friend who worked with Janet. "Why would you want to do this?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious. The others were clearly interested in the exposure, the connections. Maya smiled, and something in Marcus's chest tightened. Honestly? The money. I'm working on a new book series and I'd like to take a year off teaching to focus on writing. What you're offering would make that possible. Her honesty was refreshing. No pretense, no false flattery. But why should I pick you? You're not an actress. No, Maya agreed. But I am a storyteller. I create characters and worlds for a living. Becoming your girlfriend for a few weeks is just another story to tell, only this time I'm in it. By the time she left his office, Marcus knew he'd found his fake girlfriend. What he didn't know was how completely his carefully controlled life was about to change. Maya arrived at Marcus's penthouse exactly on time the following morning. His doorman escorted her up in the private elevator, and Marcus watched from his living room as she stepped inside, her eyes widening slightly at the floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city skyline. "Your home is beautiful," she said simply, placing her purse down on the marble counter. "Thank you," Marcus replied, suddenly feeling awkward in his own space. "Would you like coffee? Water?" "Coffee would be great, thank you." As he prepared their drinks, Marcus stole glances at Maya. Today she wore fitted jeans and a soft yellow sweater that complemented her warm brown skin. She moved around his living room with careful interest, examining his bookshelves rather than his expensive art pieces. "You have a first-edition Toni Morrison," she noted, her fingers hovering respectfully near the spine without touching it. Marcus nodded. "I collect books. Most people don't notice them with all the other things in here." Maya smiled. "I'm not most people." With coffee in hand, they sat down at his dining table where Marcus had prepared folders of information. "So," he began, "we have 4 weeks until the wedding. During that time, you need to learn everything about me, my family, and our supposed relationship." Maya opened the first folder. "Tell me about Claire, first. Who have I been for the past year?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Claire is successful but not showy. Smart but not intimidating. She understands my work schedule and supports my ambitions. She's kind to everyone, especially my sister." Maya raised an eyebrow. "That's not very specific. What does she do for work? Where did we meet? Do we have a song? A special restaurant? First date story?" Marcus blinked. He hadn't thought about those details. "I told my family you're a writer," he admitted. "That part can stay true. We met at a charity event for children's literacy. You spilled wine on my shirt, I asked for your number anyway." Maya nodded, taking notes. "Cute. Simple enough to remember. What else?" For the next 3 hours they created Claire and Marcus's love story. Their first date at a small Italian restaurant. How he knew she was special when she spent an entire evening talking to his elderly neighbor at a building function. The fictional weekend trips they'd taken. Their inside jokes. "Why did you make up a girlfriend in the first place?" Maya asked during a break, cradling her coffee mug. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his short black hair. "At first, it was to stop my sister from trying to set me up with every single woman she met. Then it became a way to avoid questions about my personal life at family gatherings. Before I knew it, Claire had a whole life and everyone was asking when they'd meet her. And now you need me to be her at your sister's wedding," Maya finished. "Yes. Sophia has been through so much with her heart condition. This wedding is everything to her, and she's so excited to meet the woman who supposedly makes her brother happy." Something in Maya's expression softened. "You really love your sister." "She's the only family I have left," Marcus said quietly. Maya reached across the table and briefly touched his hand, a simple gesture that caught him by surprise. "Then we'll make sure she has the perfect wedding day." The next 2 weeks flew by in a blur of preparation. Maya came to his penthouse every day, sometimes spending 8 hours learning family histories, looking at photos and memorizing names of relatives and friends she would meet. Marcus was impressed by how quickly she absorbed information. She created flashcards, drew family trees, and even made notes about each person's interests so she could manage small talk with his relatives. "Your cousin James is a golf enthusiast who works in real estate and has 3 kids. Emma, Liam, and Noah," she recited one evening, not looking at her notes. "He'll probably brag about his new putter, and I should ask about Emma's piano recital." "That's exactly right," Marcus said, amazed. Maya shrugged. "I have a good memory. It helps with storytelling." As they spent more time together, Marcus found himself enjoying Maya's company more than he expected. She was easy to talk to, funny without trying too hard, and surprisingly insightful about his business when he mentioned problems he was facing. "Have you tried approaching it from the user's perspective instead of the technical side?" she suggested one night when he was complaining about a new product that wasn't connecting with customers. Her suggestion led to a 3-hour brainstorming session that gave him a completely new angle for his team to explore. By the third week, their daily sessions had taken on a comfortable rhythm. Maya would arrive with breakfast. She insisted on bringing food after discovering his habit of skipping meals when busy, and they would spend the morning on relationship prep. Afternoons often drifted into genuine conversations about books, world events, or childhood memories. "We should practice being a couple in public," Maya said one Friday as their session was ending. "All this information won't matter if we don't look natural together." Marcus hesitated. "What did you have in mind?" "Dinner. Movie. Maybe dancing? Normal date things that couples do." The thought made Marcus nervous in a way business meetings with billionaires never did. "I suppose you're right." That weekend they went on their first practice date. Maya wore a simple red dress that made Marcus's pulse quicken when she stepped out of the taxi in front of the restaurant. He had chosen a nice but not overly fancy place to avoid photographers who might recognize him. Dinner conversation flowed easily, but the physical aspects of pretending to be a couple proved more challenging. When Maya reached for his hand across the table, Marcus nearly knocked over his water glass. "Relax," she whispered, her thumb brushing over his knuckles. "You look terrified." "Sorry," he muttered. "I'm not used to this." Her eyes softened. "When was the last time you actually dated someone, Marcus?" He thought about it. 3 years ago. It lasted 2 months before she sold a story about me to a tabloid. Maya winced. "That's awful." "It's just business to some people," he said, trying to sound dismissive though the betrayal still stung. "Is that why you work so much? To avoid getting hurt again?" Marcus pulled his hand away. "I work because I love what I do. My company matters to me." "I'm sure it does," Maya said gently. "But there's a difference between loving your work and hiding in it." Her words hit too close to home, but before Marcus could respond, the waiter arrived with their dessert. By silent agreement they moved to safer topics. After dinner they walked along the river that ran through the city center. Without the pressure of sitting face to face, Marcus relaxed. When Maya shivered in the evening breeze, he put his jacket around her shoulders without thinking. "Very convincing," she said with a small smile. No one would doubt we're a couple now. But as they continued walking, her hand somehow found its way into his, and this time he didn't flinch. It felt strangely right, her fingers intertwined with his as they strolled under the lights reflecting off the water. By the time he dropped her off at her apartment, something had shifted between them. Standing at her door, Marcus suddenly felt awkward again. "Thank you for tonight," he said formally. "It was good practice." Maya studied his face for a moment. "You know, for this to work you'll have to kiss me at some point during the wedding weekend. Maybe we should practice that too." Before Marcus could process her words, she leaned up and pressed a soft, brief kiss to his lips. "Good night, Marcus," she said, slipping inside her apartment before he could respond. Driving home, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the warmth of her lips against his. It was just practice, he reminded himself. Just business. But for the first time in years, he found himself looking forward to tomorrow for reasons that had nothing to do with work. The day before the wedding, Marcus parked his car in front of Maya's modest apartment building, his stomach in knots. They would be driving 3 hours upstate to the luxury resort where Sophia's wedding would take place. An entire weekend of pretending to be deeply in love, surrounded by his family and friends who would be watching their every move. What had seemed like a simple solution to his problem now felt incredibly complicated, especially given the strange tension that had developed between them since their practice date last weekend. He texted her that he had arrived, and minutes later, Maya emerged from the building pulling a small suitcase. She wore a floral sundress with a light jean jacket, her braids pulled back into a stylish updo. Simple yet beautiful. "Good morning," she said, sliding into the passenger seat of his Audi. "Ready for our big performance?" Marcus nodded, trying to ignore how nice she smelled, something fresh and subtle like citrus and vanilla. "I've been thinking about our strategy." Maya laughed as he pulled away from the curb. "Strategy? This isn't a corporate merger, Marcus. It's essentially the same thing. We have goals, potential obstacles, and a timeline. Our goal being to convince your family we're madly in love," Maya said, amusement in her voice. "What are the potential obstacles?" Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. "My Aunt Patricia is extremely perceptive. She'll be watching us closely. Then there's my cousin James. He's always been jealous of my success and would love to catch me in a lie. And most importantly, Sophia knows me better than anyone. If she suspects I'm faking..." "We won't let that happen," Maya assured him. I've studied everything you've told me. I know your family tree better than my own at this point. As they drove, Maya reviewed her notes one last time, occasionally asking questions about specific relatives. 3 hours passed quickly, and before Marcus knew it, they were pulling up to the grand resort nestled in the mountains. Wow, Maya breathed, taking in the sprawling buildings surrounded by lush forests and gardens. A lake glittered in the distance. Your sister picked a beautiful spot. She deserves it after everything she's been through, Marcus said softly, handing the car keys to the valet. As they entered the elegant lobby with its soaring ceilings and massive stone fireplace, Marcus spotted his sister immediately. Sophia was directing staff about flower arrangements, her fiancé Michael smiling indulgently beside her. When she turned and saw Marcus, her face lit up with pure joy. "You're here," she called, rushing over to hug him tightly. Then her eyes moved to Maya and she froze, her mouth forming a small O of surprise. For one terrible moment, Marcus thought she somehow knew the truth. But then Sophia's expression transformed into a radiant smile. "You must be Claire," she said, pulling Maya into a hug. "I can't believe I'm finally meeting you." Over Sophia's shoulder, Maya's eyes met Marcus's, a silent message passing between them. The game had begun. "I've heard so much about you," Maya said warmly as they separated. "Marcus talks about his amazing sister all the time." Sophia beamed, linking her arm through Maya's. "And he's told me so much about you too. Though he never mentioned how beautiful you are." A faint blush colored Maya's cheeks. "That's very kind of you. Come on, I'll show you both to your suite. Then you have to join us for the welcome dinner at 6. Everyone can't wait to meet the woman who finally captured my workaholic brother's heart." As they followed Sophia through the resort, Marcus felt a wave of guilt. His sister was so genuinely happy for him. What would she think if she knew the truth? Maya seemed to sense his distress because she reached for his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. The small gesture steadied him. Their suite was luxurious, with a spacious living area, king-sized bed, and balcony overlooking the mountains. Once the bellhop had delivered their luggage and left, Marcus sank onto the couch. "She loves you already?" he said, loosening his tie. "You're a natural at this." Maya sat beside him. "Your sister is lovely. I can see why you'd do anything to make her happy." Marcus checked his watch. "We have 2 hours before dinner. I should call the office quickly to check." "No," Maya interrupted, taking his phone from his hand. "No work this weekend. A real boyfriend would be focused on his girlfriend and his sister's wedding, not quarterly reports." He knew she was right, but the thought of being disconnected from work for 3 days made him anxious. Work was safe. Work made sense. Work didn't make him feel confused and off-balance the way Maya's presence did. "Fine," he conceded. "But I need to check emails Sunday before we drive back." "Deal." She stood up. "I'm going to freshen up before dinner." The welcome dinner was held in a private dining room with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the sunset over the mountains. About 40 people mingled around the room, the wedding party and close family who had arrived early for the weekend festivities. The moment Marcus and Maya entered, holding hands as practiced, all eyes turned to them. Or more specifically, to Maya. There he is. Michael, Sophia's fiancé, approached with 2 glasses of champagne. "And this must be the famous Claire we've all been dying to meet." More introductions followed as relatives descended upon them. Marcus had warned Maya about his family's tendency to ask intrusive questions, but she handled each one with grace and humor. "How did you tame the confirmed bachelor?" his cousin Vanessa asked, eyeing Maya curiously. "I wouldn't say I tamed him," Maya replied with a laugh. "I just helped him see there's more to life than spreadsheets and board meetings." "And what exactly do you see in my nephew?" Aunt Patricia inquired, her sharp eyes missing nothing. "Besides the obvious financial benefits, of course." Marcus tensed, but Maya didn't miss a beat. "His heart," she said simply, looking up at Marcus with such genuine affection that his breath caught. "He pretends to be all business, but underneath he's the most caring person I've ever met. The way he drops everything for his sister, how he remembers every employee's birthday, how he still visits his parents' graves every month with fresh flowers." She squeezed his hand. "That's the man I fell in love with. The money is just background noise." Aunt Patricia's expression softened, and she nodded approvingly before moving on to interrogate other guests. "That was impressive," Marcus whispered against Maya's ear. "I just told the truth," she whispered back. "Those are the things you told me about yourself, and they're the things that matter." Dinner was served, and Maya charmed everyone at their table with stories about their relationship, that matched perfectly with what Marcus had told his family. She even handled an unexpected question about future children with such natural ease that Marcus found himself imagining what Maya would be like as a mother. The thought startled him so much that he choked on his wine. After dinner, the party moved to the terrace for drinks under the stars. Marcus was cornered by Michael and his groomsmen for guy talk, while Maya was pulled away by Sophia and her bridesmaids. From across the terrace, Marcus watched Maya laughing with his sister, fitting in as if she'd known these women for years. Something warm spread through his chest at the sight. Later, as they walked back to their suite, Maya yawned. "I think that went well. Your family is exhausting but wonderful." "They loved you," Marcus said truthfully. "Especially Sophia." In their suite, reality set in as they both stared at the single king-sized bed. "I can take the couch," Marcus offered quickly. Maya rolled her eyes. "Don't be ridiculous. That bed is huge and we're both adults. Besides, we need to be well rested for tomorrow." They took turns in the bathroom, and Marcus changed into pajama pants and a t-shirt while Maya was getting ready. When she emerged wearing shorts and a tank top, he tried not to stare at her long legs and smooth shoulders. They slid into bed from opposite sides, leaving a careful gap between them. "Good night, Marcus," Maya said softly, turning off her bedside lamp. "Good night," he replied, staring at the ceiling in the darkness. He expected to lie awake for hours, hyper-aware of her presence beside him. Instead, the steady sound of her breathing lulled him into the most peaceful sleep he'd had in months. Morning came with a knock on their door, Sophia bursting with energy despite it being barely 8 a.m. "Wake up, lovebirds. Breakfast on the lawn in 30 minutes. Marcus groaned, opening his eyes to find himself curled around Maya, one arm draped over her waist, their legs tangled together. He froze, but Maya simply mumbled something unintelligible and snuggled closer in her sleep. The feeling of her warm body against his sent a jolt of longing through him so powerful it scared him. Carefully, he extracted himself and headed for the shower, turning the water to cold. The wedding day passed in a blur of activities. After breakfast came photos, then the ceremony rehearsal, followed by separate bachelor and bachelorette lunches. Maya was included in all the family photos as if she were already part of the family, standing beside Marcus with his arm around her waist. Each touch, each smile they shared for the cameras, felt less like acting and more like something real. Marcus found himself seeking out reasons to touch her, a hand on the small of her back, brushing a strand of hair from her face, their fingers intertwined as they walked the resort grounds. During a rare moment alone before the rehearsal dinner, they sat on a bench overlooking the lake. The setting sun painted the water gold and pink, a perfect backdrop for the wedding that would take place the next day. "Your sister looks so happy," Maya said, watching Sophia and Michael taking photos on the dock. "She deserves it. After our parents died, she was the one who held us together. Even when she got sick, she was always more worried about me being alone than about herself." Maya turned to face him. "You're not alone now." Something in her tone made Marcus look at her, really look at her. The fading sunlight cast a warm glow on her skin, making her eyes shine. Without thinking, he leaned forward and kissed her. Unlike their brief practice kiss, this one lingered. Maya's hand came up to rest against his cheek as she kissed him back, soft and sweet. When they broke apart, reality crashed back in. This wasn't real. He was paying her to pretend. Whatever he was feeling, this warmth, this connection, it wasn't part of their agreement. "Marcus," she began. "We should head back," he interrupted, standing abruptly. "The rehearsal dinner starts soon." He didn't miss the hurt that flashed across her face before she nodded and rose to follow him. The rehearsal dinner was an elegant affair with toasts and laughter. Marcus gave a touching speech about his sister that brought tears to many eyes, including Maya's. Throughout the evening they maintained their couple act flawlessly, but something had shifted. There was a new tension between them, unspoken questions hanging in the air. Back in their suite that night, Maya was unusually quiet as she gathered her things for the bathroom. "Is everything okay?" Marcus asked, although he knew things weren't. Maya paused, her back to him. "You know, for someone so successful in business, you're remarkably dense about some things." Before he could respond, she disappeared into the bathroom, leaving him confused and frustrated with himself. By the time she came out, he had convinced himself that professionalism was the only way forward. This was a business arrangement, nothing more. But lying beside her in bed that night, listening to her breathing and remembering the feel of her lips against his, Marcus knew he was fooling himself. Somehow, in just a few short weeks, Maya Wilson had breached walls he'd spent years building. And tomorrow, when the wedding was over, she would walk away with her payment, and he would return to his empty penthouse and his work. Exactly as he had planned all along. So why did the thought now fill him with such emptiness? Sunlight streamed through the curtains, waking Marcus from a restless night. He reached across the bed, finding empty space where Maya had been. For a moment, panic gripped him. Had she left already? Before he heard the shower running in the bathroom. He sat up, rubbing his face. Today was Sophia's wedding day. He should be focused on his sister, on making sure everything went perfectly for her. Instead, his mind kept circling back to Maya and that kiss by the lake. The bathroom door opened, and Maya emerged wrapped in a hotel robe, her hair in a towel. "Morning," she said, her tone carefully neutral. "Bathroom's all yours." "Thanks," he replied, equally formal. "Did you sleep well?" "Fine." The awkwardness between them was painful. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. They needed to be convincing as a couple today of all days. "Maya," he started, not quite knowing what he wanted to say. "About yesterday." Her phone rang, interrupting whatever admission had been forming on his lips. "It's your sister," she said, glancing at the screen. "Should I answer?" Marcus nodded, and Maya put the call on speaker. "Claire. Are you with my brother?" Sophia's voice was bright with excitement. "I'm here too, Sophia," Marcus called. "Everything okay?" "More than okay. Just making sure you both got the schedule change. Hair and makeup for the bridal party is starting an hour earlier. Claire, can you come to my suite at 9 instead of 10? The stylist wants to do your hair before the bridesmaids." Maya looked surprised. "Me? But I'm not in the bridal party." "You're my brother's girlfriend," Sophia said as if it was obvious. "Your family, which means you're getting the full treatment. No arguments." After Sophia hung up, Maya sat on the edge of the bed looking troubled. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked. "Your sister is including me in everything like I'm actually going to be in her life after today," Maya said quietly. "It feels wrong." The guilt Marcus had been suppressing surged back full force. "I know. She's so genuine and sweet. All your family is welcoming me with open arms, and I'm lying to all of them." Marcus moved to sit beside her. "We're doing this for Sophia. So her wedding day is perfect." "Are we?" Maya looked at him directly. "Or are we doing this because you're afraid to admit you've been lying? There's a difference." Her words hit him like a physical blow because he knew she was right. This had started as a way to make Sophia happy, but continuing the charade was more about his pride and fear than his sister's feelings. Before he could respond, Maya stood up. "I should get ready. Your sister is expecting me." The morning passed in a whirlwind of wedding preparations. Marcus was pulled into last-minute groomsman duties while Maya joined the women for hair and makeup. He only caught glimpses of her throughout the morning, heading to Sophia's suite with a tray of champagne flutes, laughing with his cousins as they arranged flowers in the garden where the ceremony would take place. Each time he saw her, something tugged in his chest. She belonged here, among his family, in a way that felt right and natural. The thought terrified him. By 3 o'clock, guests were being seated in the garden for the ceremony. Marcus stood with Michael and the other groomsmen, adjusting his tie and scanning the crowd for Maya. And then he saw her, making her way to the front row where immediate family was seated. His heart nearly stopped. Maya wore a deep purple dress that hugged her curves before flowing gracefully to her ankles. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo with a few braids framing her face. She was breathtaking. As if sensing his gaze, she looked up and their eyes met across the garden. For a brief moment, everything else faded away. The guests, the wedding preparations, even the reason she was here in the first place. Then someone called his name, breaking the spell, and the ceremony was beginning. Sophia was radiant as she walked down the aisle on their uncle's arm. Her heart-shaped face glowed with happiness, no trace of the illness that had plagued her for years. When she reached Michael, the love between them was palpable, bringing unexpected tears to Marcus's eyes. Throughout the ceremony, he found his gaze repeatedly drawn to Maya in the front row. Once, he caught her wiping away a tear as Sophia and Michael exchanged their heartfelt vows. Their eyes met again and she gave him a small, private smile that made his pulse quicken. After the ceremony, while the photographer was arranging groups for pictures, Sophia pulled Marcus aside. "She's wonderful," his sister said, squeezing his hand. "Claire is absolutely perfect for you." Marcus swallowed hard. "You think so?" "I know so. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you look at her." Sophia's eyes were knowing. "It's the same way Michael looks at me." Before Marcus could process that observation, they were called for family photos, and Maya was positioned next to him, her arms sliding naturally around his waist as she had done countless times that weekend. But now, Every touch felt charged with something unspoken. The reception was held in a grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. After dinner and touching speeches, the dancing began. Marcus watched as Maya chatted easily with his relatives, throwing her head back in laughter at something his uncle said. "You should dance with your girlfriend," Sophia said, appearing beside him with a knowing smirk. "Stop staring and actually go to her." Marcus found himself walking across the ballroom as if pulled by an invisible force. Maya looked up as he approached, her smile hesitant but warm. "May I have this dance?" he asked formally, extending his hand. She placed her hand in his. "Of course." On the dance floor, Marcus pulled her close, one hand at the small of her back, the other holding hers against his chest. They moved together to the slow melody, bodies fitting perfectly. "You look beautiful tonight," he said softly. "Thank you." She studied his face. "You've been a good brother today." Sophia looked so happy. "She does." He paused. "She told me she thinks you're perfect for me." Something flashed in Maya's eyes, hope perhaps or sadness. "And what did you say?" "I didn't get a chance to answer." But, Maya prompted when he trailed off. Marcus took a deep breath. "I think she might be right." Maya missed a step then recovered. "Marcus, don't say things you don't mean. This weekend ends tomorrow and then we go back to our real lives." "What if I don't want it to end?" The words came out before he could stop them. She shook her head. "You hired me to play a part. That's all this is." "Is it?" He tightened his hold on her waist. "That kiss by the lake wasn't in the script." "A moment of weakness," she said, but her eyes betrayed her. "Maya." The music changed to an upbeat song, and other couples flooded the dance floor, breaking their private bubble. Maya stepped back from his embrace. "I need some air," she said, turning away. Marcus watched her weave through the crowd toward the terrace doors, his heart pounding. Everything was spinning out of control. This wasn't part of his careful plan. Maya was supposed to be a solution to his problem, not create an entirely new one. He followed her outside, finding her at the stone railing overlooking the gardens and lake beyond. The moon cast a silver path across the water, and fairy lights twinkled in the trees around the terrace. "Maya," he said, coming to stand beside her. "Please look at me." Slowly she turned. In the moonlight, he could see the shimmer of tears in her eyes. "This isn't fair," she said quietly. "You can't say things like that when we both know this isn't real." "What if I want it to be real?" Marcus moved closer, his heart hammering in his chest. "What if these past few weeks, pretending to be with you, have been the happiest I've had in years?" Maya shook her head. "You're caught up in the moment. The romance of the wedding, the fantasy we've created." "No," he interrupted firmly. "It's more than that. When I'm with you I feel like myself. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, just Marcus. The man who loves books and old movies and making his sister happy." He reached for her hand. "The man who's falling for you." For a moment, hope flared in Maya's eyes, but then she pulled her hand away. "You paid me to be here, Marcus. How could anything real come from that?" The truth of her words struck him like a physical blow. She was right. Their relationship had begun as a business transaction. How could he expect her to believe his feelings were genuine now? Before he could find the words to respond, the terrace doors opened and Sophia burst out, slightly tipsy and radiantly happy. "There you two are. Everyone's looking for you. It's time for the bouquet toss." Maya pasted on a smile. "We'll be right there." As Sophia disappeared back inside, Marcus touched Maya's arm. "This conversation isn't over." "Yes it is," Maya said firmly. "Let's just get through tonight. For your sister." Inside they maintained their couple act flawlessly, dancing, laughing and posing for photos. No one would have guessed the turmoil beneath their smiles. When Maya caught the bouquet, seemingly by accident when it bounced off another woman's hands and into hers, the crowd erupted in cheers and knowing looks were directed at Marcus. "You're next," someone called out. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. As the night wound down and guests began to leave, Maya excused herself to help Sophia with something in the bridal suite. Marcus found himself alone at their table, nursing a glass of scotch and wondering how everything had gotten so complicated. "She's quite a woman," Aunt Patricia said, sitting down beside him. "Not what I expected for you at all." Marcus looked up. "What do you mean?" His aunt smiled slyly. "I always assumed you'd end up with someone from your world, ambitious, polished, perhaps a bit calculating." She glanced toward the door where Maya had disappeared. "But Claire is different. She's genuine." When she looks at you, she sees Marcus, not the Johnson fortune. You think so? He asked, his voice rougher than he intended. I know so. Aunt Patricia patted his hand. Don't let her get away, nephew. Women like that don't come along often. After she left, Marcus sat alone, turning her words over in his mind. How had his fake relationship become more real than any actual relationship he'd had in years? By the time he returned to their suite, exhaustion had settled deep in his bones. Maya was already there, removing her jewelry at the dresser. She had changed from her formal dress into pajamas, her face freshly scrubbed of makeup. She looked up as he entered. Your sister is officially married and happily on her way to the honeymoon suite. Mission accomplished. Maya. I've been thinking, she interrupted. I should leave early tomorrow. There's an 8 a.m. shuttle to the city. The wedding is over, so there's no reason for me to stay for the farewell brunch. Each word felt like a knife twisting in his chest. Is that what you want? She wouldn't meet his eyes. It's what makes sense. You can tell your family I had a work emergency or something. Marcus crossed the room, stopping directly in front of her. Look at me, please. Reluctantly, she raised her eyes to his. Ask me what I want, he said softly. Maya swallowed visibly. What do you want, Marcus? You. The word hung between them, raw and honest. Not for a weekend, not as a pretend girlfriend. Just you, Maya Wilson, the woman who challenges me and makes me laugh and sees me as I really am. Tears filled her eyes. How can I believe that? How do I know this isn't just you getting caught up in your own lie? Marcus reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. Because I've never been more honest about anything in my life. Meeting you was supposed to be a business arrangement, but somewhere along the way, it became the best thing that ever happened to me. A tear slipped down her cheek and he brushed it away with his thumb. I'm not good at relationships. I'm married to my work. I'm stubborn and impatient and terrible at expressing my feelings. But I want to try with you if you'll give me a chance. Maya's hands came up to cover his. I'm not part of your world, Marcus. I don't care about wealth or status. I just want a simple life where I can write my books and be with someone who values me for who I am. That's exactly what I want too, he said fervently. The money, the company, they're just things. You've shown me there's so much more to life. He leaned his forehead against hers. Let me prove it to you. Don't leave tomorrow. Stay. Give us a real chance. For a long moment she was silent, and Marcus felt his heart might break if she refused. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Okay, she whispered. Relief and joy flooded through him. Slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, he lowered his lips to hers. The kiss was tender at first, then deepened as Maya wound her arms around his neck, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Marcus held her tight against his chest, afraid to let go. So what happens now? Maya asked, her voice muffled against his shirt. Marcus smiled into her hair. Now we stop pretending. The morning after the wedding dawned bright and clear. Marcus woke slowly, aware of a warm weight against his side. Maya was curled against him, her head on his shoulder, one arm draped across his chest. For a moment, he simply watched her sleep, overwhelmed by the tenderness he felt. This was real now. Not an act, not a business arrangement. Last night they had stayed up for hours talking, really talking, about their lives, their dreams, their fears. Maya had told him about her parents who worked multiple jobs to put her through college, her struggles as a writer, and her dream of creating a series of books that would inspire children to read. Marcus had shared his own insecurities, how the loss of his parents had made him throw himself into work, afraid to let anyone else close enough to lose them. Somehow, in the soft darkness of their suite, barriers had fallen away. They had held each other, exchanged gentle kisses, and eventually fallen asleep in each other's arms. Nothing more, but somehow everything more than before. Maya stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a second, confusion crossed her face, then recognition and a soft smile. Good morning, she murmured. Good morning, he replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She stretched, then propped herself up on one elbow to look at him. So, that happened. Marcus chuckled. It did. Any regrets in the light of day? Not yet, she said, a teasing glint in her eyes. But the day is young. He pulled her down for a quick kiss. We should probably talk about what happens next. Maya nodded, growing more serious. Right. Like what we tell your family. Marcus hadn't even thought about that yet. His family still believed Maya was Claire, the girlfriend he'd been telling them about for a year. They didn't know their entire relationship had been fake until this weekend. I think. He began slowly, We should tell them the truth. Not today, not while Sophia is still here celebrating. But soon. Maya looked surprised. Really? I thought you'd want to protect your pride. My pride isn't as important as starting this. Us, honestly, he said. Besides, they already love you. Finding out your name is Maya instead of Claire won't change that. A soft smile spread across her face. You really mean that, don't you? I do. He sat up, taking her hands in his. Maya, I've spent my whole life calculating risks, making strategic decisions. Meeting you was the best unplanned thing that ever happened to me. I don't want to mess this up with more lies. She leaned forward to kiss him softly. Then we'll tell them. Together. The farewell brunch was held on the resort's lawn under white tents. As they approached, hand in hand, Marcus felt a strange mixture of nervousness and contentment. This was the first time they were appearing before his family as a truly real couple. There they are. Sophia called, waving them over to the main table where she sat with Michael and their closest relatives. We were taking bets on whether you two would show up or stay in bed all day. Maya blushed but didn't drop Marcus's hand. Congratulations again, Marcus said, hugging his sister. The wedding was perfect. It was, wasn't it? Sophia beamed. And having everyone I love there made it even better. She looked meaningfully between Marcus and Maya. So, when can we expect another Johnson wedding? Marcus nearly choked on his coffee while Maya patted his back, laughing. Let's not rush them, darling, Michael said, amused. They've only been dating a year. The irony of that statement hung in the air between Marcus and Maya. Under the table, she squeezed his hand reassuringly. The brunch passed pleasantly, with family members stopping by their table to say goodbye before departing for home. Everyone had warm words for Claire, telling her how wonderful it was to finally meet her and how glad they were that Marcus had found someone special. Each comment added to Marcus's determination to come clean, but also to his fear. Would they understand? Or would they feel betrayed? As they packed their bags later that afternoon, Maya sensed his mood. Second thoughts? She asked quietly. About us? No, he said firmly. About telling my family the truth? I'm just worried how they'll take it. Maya sat beside him on the bed. They might be hurt at first. But if we explain why you did it, that you wanted Sophia to have a perfect wedding without worrying about you, I think they'll understand eventually. Marcus nodded, then looked at her curiously. You keep saying we. Are you sure you want to be involved in this mess I've created? I'm already involved, she said simply. Besides, I like your family. I want them to know the real me, not Claire. On the drive back to the city, they talked about practical matters, when they would see each other again, how to navigate their very different lives, what to tell her friends about how they met. I have meetings in Tokyo next week, Marcus said reluctantly. I'll be gone for 5 days. And I have a deadline for my book, Maya replied. The next few weeks will be intense. The reality of their separate lives was setting in. Marcus was a billionaire CEO with international responsibilities. Maya was a children's book author with a modest apartment and a tight deadline. Their worlds couldn't be more different. As if reading his thoughts, Maya said, "This won't be easy, you know." "The best things rarely are," he replied, reaching across to take her hand. When they reached her apartment building, Marcus insisted on carrying her bag upstairs. At her door, an awkwardness fell between them. The bubble of the wedding weekend had burst and real life was asserting itself. "I had a really nice time," Maya said, then laughed. "That sounds so formal, like this was a first date." "In a way it was," Marcus pointed out. "Our first real date, not as Marcus and Claire but as Marcus and Maya." She smiled, then grew serious. "Are you sure about this? About us? Your life is so different from mine." Instead of answering with words, Marcus pulled her close and kissed her deeply. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against hers. "I've never been more sure of anything," he whispered. "Can I see you tomorrow?" Maya nodded. "I'd like that." As Marcus drove back to his penthouse, he felt lighter than he had in years. The empty apartment that had once been his refuge now seemed cold and sterile without Maya's warmth and laughter. He wandered through the rooms, seeing them through her eyes, beautiful but impersonal, like a museum rather than a home. His phone rang. It was Sophia, calling from her honeymoon in Bali. "Just checking in," she said cheerfully. "Michael and I wanted to make sure you and Claire got home safely." "We did," Marcus confirmed. "How's Bali?" "Absolute paradise," Sophia gushed. "But that's not why I called. I wanted to tell you how happy I am that you finally found someone who makes you light up the way Claire does." Guilt twisted in Marcus's stomach. "Sophia, there's something I need to tell you." Can it wait until we're back? Bad connection here, Sophia said, her voice breaking up. Love you, big brother. Give Claire a hug from me. Before he could say more, she had hung up. Marcus stared at the phone, then sighed. The truth would have to wait a little longer. The next morning, Marcus arranged for his driver to pick up Maya and bring her to his office. He had planned to take her to lunch at his favorite restaurant, but an emergency board meeting had been called, throwing off his carefully planned day. Maya arrived just as the meeting ended, looking slightly overwhelmed as she was escorted through the imposing glass and steel headquarters of Johnson Tech. Heads turned as she passed, curious glances following the unfamiliar woman being led to the CEO's office. Marcus met her at the door, conscious of his assistant Janet's raised eyebrows. After all, Janet knew exactly who Maya was and why she had originally been hired. I'm sorry about lunch, Marcus said, closing his office door. The board meeting ran long. It's fine, Maya assured him, looking around his spacious office with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. So this is where the magic happens. Not magic, just work, he said, suddenly self-conscious about the trappings of wealth and power that surrounded him. Would Maya see him differently here, in his element? But she just smiled, moving to his desk where a framed photo caught her eye. Is this your parents? Marcus nodded, coming to stand beside her. That was taken the year before the accident. Maya studied the happy couple in the picture. You have your mother's eyes. And your father's determined chin. Her simple observation touched him deeply. No one had ever remarked on that before. Are you hungry? He asked. We could order in. Starving, she admitted. They ate sushi on his office couch, Maya kicking off her shoes and tucking her feet under her as she told him about the plot of her new book. Marcus found himself captivated by her enthusiasm, the animated way she described her characters, the passion she had for her work. What? She asked, catching him staring. Nothing, he said, smiling. I just like watching you talk about your writing. You come alive. A knock at the door interrupted them. Janet entered with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, but Mr. Nakamura's team has moved up the call to discuss the Tokyo meetings. They're on the line now. Marcus sighed. I have to take this. It's about next week's trip. Maya stood, gathering her things. Of course. I should get going anyway. Deadline, remember? He walked her to the door, acutely aware of the curious eyes of his employees watching them. At the elevator, he pulled her aside. Have dinner with me tonight, he said. At my place. I'll cook. Maya raised an eyebrow. You cook. I have many hidden talents, he replied with a grin. 8 o'clock. She agreed, and he watched the elevator doors close between them, already counting the hours until he would see her again. That evening, Marcus left the office early, something he couldn't remember doing in years, and stopped at a specialty market to buy ingredients. He wasn't actually much of a cook, but he could manage a decent pasta dish, and he wanted tonight to be special. At home, he changed into casual clothes, put on music, and opened a bottle of wine to breathe. He was setting the table when his phone rang. It was his Tokyo team with a crisis that couldn't wait. By the time he talked them through it, the water for the pasta was boiling over and the sauce was sticking to the pan. The doorbell rang just as he was salvaging what he could of dinner. Maya stood there with a small overnight bag, looking beautiful in a simple dress and cardigan. You brought a bag, he noted, pleasantly surprised. I thought I might stay over, she said, suddenly uncertain. If that's okay? Marcus pulled her into a kiss that left no doubt about how okay it was. Very much okay. Inside, she looked around his apartment with curious eyes. This place is amazing. It's just a space, he said, taking her bag to his bedroom. Maya followed him, stopping at his extensive bookshelves along the way. Just a space with a first-edition collection that would make librarians weep with joy. In the kitchen, Marcus poured her a glass of wine. I should warn you, dinner might not be exactly gourmet. I got distracted by a work call. Work emergency? She asked, taking a sip. Nothing serious, just a problem with the Tokyo arrangements. He stirred the sauce, avoiding her eyes. I'll be flying out Sunday morning. 4 days from now, she nodded. You mentioned that. Something in her tone made him look up. Is that going to be a problem? Maya leaned against the counter. It's not a problem. It's just reality. You have a demanding job that takes you around the world. I have deadlines and a small apartment and a life that's very different from all this. She gestured around the luxurious kitchen. Are you having second thoughts? He asked quietly. She considered the question seriously. Not second thoughts. Just realistic ones. We've spent a weekend in a romantic bubble, Marcus. Now we're back in the real world with real complications. He set down the spoon and moved to stand in front of her. Maya, I know this won't be easy. Our lives are different. But I meant what I said at the resort. I want to try. Really try. Even if that means making sacrifices? Compromises? Even then, he said firmly. She studied his face, then nodded slowly. Then let's have dinner and talk about how we make this work. Over his less-than-perfect pasta, they discussed the practical aspects of their relationship. Maya had writing commitments and a book tour coming up. Marcus had business trips and board meetings. Their schedules were complex but not incompatible. I could come to Tokyo with you, Maya suggested. I can write anywhere. Marcus looked up in surprise. You'd do that? Why not? I've never been to Japan. It could be inspiring for my next book. The thought of sharing that trip with her, showing her Tokyo, having her to come back to after his meetings, filled him with unexpected joy. I'd love that, he said honestly. After dinner they moved to the couch with their wine. Maya curled against his side as they talked more about their lives, their pasts, filling in the gaps that their rushed fake relationship hadn't covered. Why children's books? Marcus asked. You're clearly talented enough to write anything. Maya smiled. Books saved me as a kid. My parents worked all the time to make ends meet, so I spent a lot of time alone. Books were my friends, my escape. I want to create that for other children, worlds they can get lost in, characters who feel like friends. Her passion moved him. That's beautiful. What about you? She asked. Why technology? I was always taking things apart as a kid, trying to understand how they worked. My father was an engineer, so he encouraged it. When he and Mom died, throwing myself into the company felt like a way to stay connected to him. Maya placed her hand over his. He'd be proud of what you've built. Later, as they lay in his bed, bodies still warm from lovemaking, Maya traced patterns on his chest with her fingertips. What are you thinking? He asked, catching her hand and bringing it to his lips. That this feels surreal, she admitted. A month ago, I was struggling to pay rent while finishing my book. Now I'm in a billionaire's bed, planning a trip to Tokyo. Marcus propped himself up on one elbow to look at her. Does that bother you? The money thing? She considered the question. It's not the money itself that bothers me. It's the imbalance. I don't want to be seen as someone after your fortune. And I don't want to be dependent on you. I would never think that about you, he said earnestly. And I don't want you to be dependent on me either. I want a partner, not a possession. Maya smiled, reaching up to touch his face. Good. Because I'm definitely not the trophy girlfriend type. Thank God for that, Marcus laughed, pulling her close. I've had enough of those to last a lifetime. As they drifted off to sleep, Marcus found himself thinking about the future in a way he never had before. Not quarterly projections or 5-year business plans, but a personal future, with Maya in it. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it filled him with a deep sense of peace. Maya stared out the window of the private jet, watching as Tokyo's sprawling cityscape came into view below them. The past 4 days had been a whirlwind, shopping for her first-ever passport expedited through Marcus's connections, packing for an international trip, and telling her publisher she'd be working remotely for a week. It's beautiful, she murmured as the plane began its descent, the evening lights of the city twinkling like stars. Marcus squeezed her hand. Wait until you see it up close. Since their dinner at his apartment, they had spent every night together, alternating between his penthouse and her much more modest apartment. Marcus had seemed oddly comfortable in her small space, curling up with her on her worn couch and helping her cook in her tiny kitchen. They had also begun the delicate process of integrating their separate lives. Marcus had introduced Maya to Janet as his actual girlfriend, which had earned him a knowing smirk from his assistant. Maya had introduced Marcus to her best friend Layla over video chat, enduring Layla's wide-eyed shock and subsequent flood of questions. But they still hadn't told Marcus's family the truth. Sophia was still on her honeymoon, and Marcus wanted to wait until she returned to explain everything in person. The longer they waited, though, the more complicated the lie became. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked as they prepared for landing. Just how strange life can be, Maya replied. A month ago, I'd never left the country. Now I'm landing in Tokyo on a private jet with a billionaire boyfriend. Marcus laughed. When you put it that way, it does sound like a movie plot. A very unrealistic one, she agreed with a smile. The car that met them at the airport whisked them through Tokyo's busy streets to a luxury hotel in the heart of the city. Their suite was spectacular, with views of Tokyo Tower lit up against the night sky. Your meetings start tomorrow morning? Maya asked, unpacking her small suitcase while Marcus checked his messages. He nodded absently, frowning at his phone. 9 a.m. with the Nakamura team, then lunch with potential investors. He looked up, his expression softening. But tonight is just for us. I want to take you to my favorite restaurant here. Dinner was at a small, exclusive sushi restaurant where the chef greeted Marcus by name. They sat at the counter, watching in awe as the chef prepared exquisite pieces of sushi with practiced precision. How many times have you been to Tokyo? Maya asked between bites of the most delicious food she'd ever tasted. 15? 20? I lost count, Marcus admitted. Johnson Tech has an office here, and we do a lot of business with Japanese tech companies. Maya took a sip of sake. Do you always stay in the same hotel? Usually. Why? She shrugged. Just trying to picture your life before we met. Were you lonely traveling so much? Marcus considered the question, his expression thoughtful. I didn't think of it as loneliness. It was just life. I had work which I loved. I had occasional companionship when I wanted it. I told myself it was enough. And now? Maya asked softly. He reached across the table to take her hand. Now I realize how empty it all was. Later, as they walked back to the hotel through the vibrant streets of Tokyo, Maya felt a strange mix of emotions. She was falling hard for Marcus, maybe had already fallen, but doubts still lingered at the edges of her mind. Their worlds were so different. Could this really work long-term? Or was she setting herself up for heartbreak? In the morning, Maya woke to find Marcus already dressed in an impeccable suit, typing on his laptop at the desk by the window. Morning, she murmured, sitting up in bed. What time is it? Just after 7, he replied, coming over to kiss her. I didn't want to wake you. I have to leave for my meeting soon, but I've arranged for a guide to show you around the city today if you'd like. Maya stretched. That sounds nice, but I don't need a guide. I can explore on my own. Marcus looked concerned. Are you sure? Tokyo is huge and you don't speak Japanese. To work on my book for a few hours. Though he still seemed hesitant, Marcus nodded. All right. Just keep your phone on and call me if you need anything. I should be done by 6. After he left, Maya spent the morning working on her manuscript, then set out to explore the city. She visited the serene gardens of the Imperial Palace, wandered through busy Shibuya Crossing, and spent hours in a multi-story bookstore marveling at the beautiful illustrations in Japanese children's books. By late afternoon, she'd made her way to a small park where she sat on a bench, watching children play. Ideas for her next book swirled in her mind, perhaps a story about a child discovering a new culture? She pulled out her notebook and began to sketch rough ideas. So absorbed was she in her work that she didn't notice the man approaching until he spoke. Maya Wilson, I presume? Startled, she looked up to see an older Japanese man in an expensive suit, studying her with curious eyes. Yes, she replied cautiously. I'm sorry, do I know you? The man smiled thinly. No, but I know who you are. My name is Hideki Tanaka. I'm a business associate of Marcus Johnson's. Maya's confusion must have shown on her face because he continued, I saw a photo of you with Marcus at the airport. You made quite an impression on my staff. I see, Maya said, still uncertain why this man had sought her out. May I? He gestured to the space beside her on the bench. Maya nodded, closing her notebook. Something about this encounter felt off, but she couldn't place why. You're not what I expected, Tanaka said, studying her face. Marcus usually prefers a certain type of woman. Models, actresses. Beautiful ornaments for his arm at events. A chill ran down Maya's spine. I'm not an ornament, Mr. Tanaka. No, clearly not. He seemed almost amused. Which makes me curious about your actual role. Are you perhaps a new employee? A consultant for one of his projects. Maya straightened her spine. I'm his girlfriend, actually. Tanaka's eyebrows rose. Indeed? How unexpected. And how long has this been going on? Warning bells rang in Maya's mind. This man was fishing for information, but why? I don't mean to be rude, Mr. Tanaka, but I don't see how my relationship with Marcus is relevant to his business dealings with you. The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps it isn't. Or perhaps it is very relevant indeed. You see, Marcus and I are negotiating a rather significant deal, one that would be greatly simplified by a more personal connection between our families. Understanding dawned slowly. A personal connection? You mean? My daughter, Miyuki, would make an excellent partner for a man of Marcus's stature. Our families united would create a powerful alliance, beneficial to all parties. Maya felt as if she'd stepped into some bizarre alternate reality. Are you talking about an arranged marriage? In 2025. Tanaka shrugged elegantly. Call it what you will. Strategic partnerships take many forms. Marcus seemed quite receptive when we discussed the possibility 2 months ago. 2 months ago. When Marcus was already telling his family about his fictional girlfriend Claire. When he was already lying to everyone about being in a relationship. I don't believe you, Maya said, but doubt had crept into her voice. Tanaka stood, straightening his immaculate suit. Believe what you wish, Ms. Wilson. But perhaps ask yourself why Marcus would suddenly bring an unknown woman to Tokyo just as our negotiations reach a critical stage. It seems an unusual coincidence, doesn't it? He handed her a business card. Should you wish to discuss this further, you can reach me at this number. Good day. Maya sat frozen on the bench long after Tanaka had disappeared into the crowd. Her mind raced with questions. Had Marcus really considered an arranged marriage for business purposes? Was that why he'd invented Claire in the first place? To avoid family pressure while keeping his business options open? And more disturbing still, was she simply a convenient diversion now that he needed to back out of the Tanaka arrangement? A ready excuse to offer the businessman? The doubt that had been simmering beneath the surface of her happiness bubbled up with new intensity. Maya had always known there were aspects of Marcus's world that she didn't understand. Wealth and power operated by different rules. But this felt like a betrayal of everything they'd begun to build. By the time she returned to the hotel, Maya had worked herself into a state of confused anger. She needed answers, but she also needed to approach this calmly. She showered and changed, trying to settle her thoughts before Marcus returned. He arrived shortly after 6, looking tired but pleased to see her. There you are. How was your day exploring? Maya took a deep breath. Interesting. I had an unexpected encounter in the park. Oh. Marcus loosened his tie, distracted as he checked messages on his phone. I met Hideki Tanaka. Marcus froze, his expression shifting from casual to guarded in an instant. Tanaka approached you? Why? That's what I'd like to know, Maya said quietly. He seemed very interested in our relationship. And he mentioned something about an arrangement between your families that you discussed 2 months ago. Marcus set down his phone slowly. Maya, whatever Tanaka told you. Is it true? She interrupted. Were you considering some kind of arranged marriage with his daughter while simultaneously telling your family you were in a relationship with Claire? The silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. It wasn't like that, Marcus finally said, running a hand through his hair. The Tanaka merger is complicated. Hideki made a suggestion about his daughter, and I didn't immediately reject it because I needed to keep negotiations open. So you strung him along, Maya said flatly. Just like you strung your family along with Claire. Marcus winced. That's not fair. Isn't it? You created Claire to avoid dealing with your family's concerns about your personal life. Were you also using her as a shield against Tanaka's marriage plans? No. Marcus moved toward her, but Maya stepped back. Maya, please. This was before I met you. Before you needed a real woman to play your fake girlfriend, she finished for him. And now I'm conveniently here in Tokyo just when you need to show Tanaka that you're not available for his daughter. Hurt flashed across Marcus's face. Is that what you think this is? That I brought you here as some kind of business strategy? Maya wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know what to think anymore. You lied to your family for a year. You apparently misled a business associate about a potential marriage arrangement. How do I know you're not lying to me too? Because what I feel for you is real, Marcus said, his voice raw with emotion. Maya, please. Let me explain everything properly. She held up a hand. I need some time to think. I'm going for a walk. It's getting dark, he protested. At least let me come with you. No. Maya grabbed her purse and key card. I need to be alone right now. She left him standing in the middle of the suite, his expression a mixture of frustration and fear. In the elevator, Maya leaned against the wall, fighting back tears. She had fallen so fast, so hard for Marcus, but now everything she thought they were building seemed to be on shaky ground. Tokyo's neon-lit streets welcomed her as she exited the hotel, walking aimlessly through the bustling crowds. She found herself in a small park where she sat on a bench, watching people hurry past, each caught up in their own lives and problems. Was she being unfair to Marcus? Maybe. But his pattern of deception troubled her deeply. First his family, then Tanaka, and who knew what else. If their relationship had been built on honesty from the beginning, perhaps she wouldn't feel so blindsided now. Hours passed as Maya wrestled with her thoughts. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from Marcus, but she wasn't ready to respond. The night grew cold and eventually she knew she had to return to the hotel. She couldn't run away from this conversation forever. When she entered the suite, she found Marcus sitting in the dark, staring out at the Tokyo skyline. He turned when he heard her, relief washing over his face. "I was worried," he said simply. "I needed time to think," Maya replied, setting her purse down. "I'm ready to listen now if you're ready to tell me the whole truth." Marcus nodded, gesturing for her to sit across from him. "The truth then?" "Yes, Tanaka suggested a marriage between his daughter and me as part of our business negotiations. It's an old-fashioned approach but not uncommon in certain circles." "And you didn't say no," Maya stated. "I didn't say yes either," Marcus countered. "I was non-committal. The Johnson-Tanaka merger is worth billions, Maya. It would secure jobs for thousands of people, advanced technology that could help millions. I couldn't just dismiss it outright. So business comes first," Maya said quietly. "Above honesty, above real relationships." Marcus leaned forward, his face intense in the dim light. "That's how I used to think. Work was everything. Success was everything. Until I met you." "Marcus." "No, please. Let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I invented Claire because it was easier than explaining to my family that I was lonely but too afraid of getting hurt to do anything about it. I didn't reject Tanaka's suggestion immediately because business negotiations were what I understood, what I was good at." He moved to kneel in front of her, taking her hands in his. "But then you walked into my office that day and everything changed. For the first time, I wanted something more than success. I wanted you. Not as part of a business strategy, but because you make me feel alive in a way I never have before." Maya wanted to believe him. The sincerity in his eyes, the vulnerability in his voice, they seemed genuine. But doubt still lingered. "Why did you bring me to Tokyo?" she asked directly. "Was it really just to be with me or was it also to send a message to Tanaka?" Marcus hesitated, and in that moment of hesitation Maya saw the truth. "Both," he admitted finally. "I wanted you with me. That's the absolute truth. But yes, I also knew it would make it clear to Tanaka that I wasn't interested in his daughter." Maya pulled her hands away. "That's what I was afraid of. Maya, please try to understand. I've spent my entire adult life making complex decisions where personal and business interests overlap. I'm not proud of how I've handled things, but I'm trying to be honest with you now." "That's just it, Marcus. You're trying now, but honesty should have been there from the beginning." Maya stood, walking to the window. "I need to know that I'm not just another strategic decision for you. That what we have is real and separate from your business world." Marcus joined her at the window, careful not to touch her. "What can I do to prove that to you?" Maya turned to face him. "Tell Tanaka the truth. About everything. No more strategic ambiguity, no more half-truths. And then tell your family too. I need to know that you're willing to face the consequences of your choices, even if it's uncomfortable or costs you something." For a long moment, Marcus was silent, and Maya feared she had asked too much. Then he nodded slowly. "I'll call Tanaka first thing in the morning. And when we get back I'll tell Sophia and the rest of my family everything." "Everything?" Maya pressed. "Everything," Marcus confirmed. "That I hired you to pretend to be Claire, that I've been lying to them for a year, and—" He paused, reaching tentatively for her hand, "that somewhere along the way I fell in love with you for real." The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time either of them had mentioned love. "You love me?" Maya whispered. Marcus nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "I do. And it terrifies me because I've never felt this way before. I don't want to lose you, Maya. Tell me it's not too late." Maya took a step toward him, closing the distance between them. "It's not too late. But no more lies, Marcus. Not even small ones. Not to me, not to your family, not to anyone. That's my condition." "I promise," he said fervently. "Complete honesty from now on." She studied his face for a long moment, then reached up to touch his cheek. "I love you too. That's why this hurts so much." Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as if afraid she might disappear. "I'm so sorry. I'll make this right, I swear." That night they lay in bed together talking for hours. Marcus told her everything, about past relationships that had failed, about business decisions he regretted, about his fears and hopes for their future. Maya shared her own insecurities about fitting into his world, her worries about losing her identity in the shadow of his wealth and status. By morning, exhausted but cleansed by truth, They had reached a new understanding. Their relationship wouldn't be easy, but it would be honest. True to his word, Marcus called Tanaka before his first meeting. Maya sat beside him, holding his hand as he explained everything: how he had invented a girlfriend to avoid family pressure, how he had met Maya when hiring her to play that role, and how they had genuinely fallen in love. "I should have been direct with you from the beginning," Marcus told the businessman. "I was never going to pursue an arrangement with your daughter, and I apologize for not making that clear." To their surprise, Tanaka laughed. "I suspected as much when I met Ms. Wilson yesterday. No one looks at a temporary arrangement the way she looked when I mentioned my daughter." After the call ended, Marcus turned to Maya with a mixture of relief and apprehension. "One down, one to go. My family will be harder. We'll face them together," Maya assured him, squeezing his hand. The rest of their time in Tokyo passed in a blur of business meetings for Marcus and exploration for Maya. But the evenings were theirs alone, walking through the city hand in hand, sharing meals in tiny restaurants off the beaten path, learning each other's bodies and hearts more deeply with each passing day. As their flight home approached, Maya found herself reluctant to leave. Despite the rocky start, Tokyo had become special to them, the place where their relationship had transformed from pretense to something real and solid. "We'll come back," Marcus promised as they packed. "There's still so much I want to show you." "I'd like that," Maya said, smiling up at him. "But first we have a confession to make to your family." Marcus groaned dramatically, pulling her into his arms. "Can't we just elope and send them a postcard?" Maya laughed, swatting his arm. "Nice try. But you promised, no more hiding, remember?" "I remember," he sighed. "It's going to be awkward." "Extremely," Maya agreed cheerfully. "But then it will be over and we can start fresh. No more Claire, no more fake relationship. Just us, Marcus and Maya, figuring things out together." He kissed her forehead. "I like the sound of that." The Johnson family estate was an imposing colonial-style mansion set on 10 acres of manicured grounds. As Marcus drove through the iron gates, Maya felt her stomach tighten with nervousness. "Your family lives here?" she asked, taking in the grandeur of the place. "No one lives here full-time anymore," Marcus explained. "After my parents died, Sophia and I both got our own places. But we keep it as a gathering spot for family events, holidays, that sort of thing." Today was Sunday brunch, a monthly tradition that had been paused for Sophia's wedding but was now resuming. The newlyweds had returned from their honeymoon 2 days earlier, and Marcus had insisted this was the perfect opportunity to come clean to everyone at once. "Are you sure about this?" Maya asked as they parked in front of the house. "Telling everyone at the same time?" Marcus nodded grimly. "Like ripping off a bandage. Quick and painful, but then it's done." He turned to face her. "Having second thoughts? About being honest?" "No. About facing your entire family's disappointment and confusion?" "Absolutely." He reached across to squeeze her hand. "We're in this together, remember?" Inside, the house was alive with the sounds of conversation and laughter. They followed the noise to a sunlit conservatory where about 15 people were gathered around a long table laden with food. Sophia spotted them first, rushing over to embrace them both. "You're back. How was Tokyo? I want to hear everything." More greetings followed: Michael, Aunt Patricia, Cousin James and his wife, and various other relatives who remembered Claire fondly from the wedding. Maya smiled and answered questions about Tokyo, all while feeling like a fraud. These people had welcomed her into their family, and they didn't even know her real name. Throughout brunch, Marcus was uncharacteristically quiet, picking at his food and drinking too much coffee. Maya nudged him occasionally, receiving tense smiles in return. She knew he was dreading what came next. Finally, as dessert was being served, Marcus clinked his glass, standing up at the head of the table. The room gradually fell silent, all eyes turning to him expectantly. "I have something important to share with all of you," he began, his voice steadier than Maya had expected. "Especially you, Sophia." His sister looked concerned. "What is it? Is everything okay?" Marcus took a deep breath. "No, it's not. I've been lying to you, to all of you, for the past year." He glanced down at Maya, who nodded encouragingly. "There is no Claire. There never was." A confused murmur rippled around the table. "What do you mean?" Sophia asked, looking between them. "She's sitting right here. This is Maya Wilson," Marcus continued. "I hired her to pretend to be my girlfriend for your wedding, Sophia. I invented Claire because I was tired of you worrying about me being alone." The lie got bigger and bigger until I couldn't find a way out. The silence that followed was deafening. Shock, confusion, and hurt played across the faces around the table. Sophia's expression was the most painful to witness, bewilderment giving way to hurt betrayal. "You hired someone to lie to me at my wedding?" she finally asked, her voice small. "I did," Marcus admitted. "And I'm deeply sorry. I thought I was protecting you, making sure you didn't worry about me during your special day. But I was wrong. I should have been honest from the beginning." Aunt Patricia turned her sharp gaze to Maya. "So you're not really with Marcus? This was all a paid performance." Maya sat up straighter. "It started that way, yes. Marcus hired me to play the part of Claire for the wedding weekend. But," Marcus interjected, taking Maya's hand, "somewhere along the way something real happened between us. The feelings we have for each other now are genuine. That's why we're here today telling you the truth. We want to start fresh with honesty." The family exchanged glances, processing this revelation. Michael was the first to speak, his voice gentle as he addressed his wife. "Sophia? Are you okay?" Sophia was staring at her plate, her expression unreadable. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. "You could have just told me the truth, Marcus. I'm not some fragile thing that needs to be protected from reality." "I know that now," Marcus said quietly. "I was wrong and I'm sorry." "So let me get this straight," James said from across the table. "You hired an actress to fool your entire family, including your sister, at her wedding?" "I'm not an actress," Maya corrected. "I'm a children's book author. And yes, I agreed to the arrangement. I'm just as responsible for this deception as Marcus is." Aunt Patricia studied them both with narrowed eyes. "And now you expect us to believe that you've miraculously fallen in love for real? How convenient." "It's the truth," Marcus insisted. "I didn't plan for it to happen. Neither of us did." "Life is funny that way," Michael observed, placing a supportive hand on Sophia's shoulder. Another painful silence descended on the table. Finally, Sophia pushed her chair back and stood up. "I need some air," she said, heading for the French doors that led to the garden. Marcus moved to follow her, but Michael shook his head. "Give her a minute. This is a lot to take in." With Sophia gone, the rest of the family seemed unsure how to proceed. Some looked angry, others confused. Maya felt like sinking into her chair. "Well," Aunt Patricia said finally, "I can't say I'm entirely surprised. Claire seemed a little too perfect to be true." She turned to Maya. "So your real name is Maya?" Maya nodded. "Maya Wilson, yes. And you write children's books? Anything I might have read to my grandchildren?" The conversation shifted awkwardly, with some family members asking Maya about her real life and work while others remained coolly distant. Marcus answered questions about how they had met, how the arrangement had worked, sparing no details that might reflect badly on himself. After what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, Sophia returned. Her eyes were red, but her expression was composed. "Marcus," she said, "can we talk privately?" He nodded, following her from the room. Maya sat uncomfortably at the table, feeling the weight of the family's gaze. "So," James's wife said with forced cheerfulness, "tell us how you really met Marcus. The real story this time." Outside in the garden, Marcus and Sophia walked in silence along a stone path bordered by late summer flowers. Their parents had designed this garden together, planning each section with meticulous care. It had always been a place of solace for the siblings. "Do you remember when we used to play hide and seek out here?" Sophia asked suddenly. "You always found the best hiding spots." Marcus smiled at the memory. "Behind the big oak tree was my favorite." "You were always hiding," Sophia observed. "Even then." She stopped walking to face him. "Why, Marcus? Why couldn't you just tell me the truth?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "At first, it was just easier to tell you I was seeing someone than to deal with your concern. You were so worried about me being alone, especially after what happened with Elise." Elise had been Marcus's last serious girlfriend, who had sold intimate details of their relationship to a tabloid after they broke up. The betrayal had left deep scars. "So you invented Claire," Sophia said. "Yes. And once the lie started, it just grew. You were so happy for me, and then your health took a turn for the worse, and I couldn't bring myself to disappoint you with the truth." Sophia shook her head. "You know what disappoints me, Marcus? Not that you were single. Not that you were lonely. What disappoints me is that you didn't trust me enough to be honest." Her words hit him like a physical blow. "I'm sorry, sophomore, truly. I was trying to protect you, but I ended up hurting you instead." "And Maya?" Sophia asked. "Is that part real?" A genuine smile touched Marcus's lips. "Completely real. I never expected it, but she She changed everything, sophomore. She makes me want to be better. More honest, more present. Sophia studied her brother's face. You love her. I do, he admitted. More than I thought possible. Well, Sophia said after a moment, at least something good came out of your ridiculous scheme. She linked her arm through his. I'm still mad at you, you know. This doesn't just go away because you say sorry. I know, Marcus said solemnly. I'll make it up to you, I promise. Start by being honest with me from now on, Sophia said. No more protecting me from the truth. No more hiding. Deal? Marcus agreed. When they returned to the conservatory, the tension in the room was palpable. Maya stood as they entered, her expression anxious. Sophia walked directly to her, and for a moment, Maya wasn't sure what to expect. So, Sophia said. Maya Wilson. Nice to finally meet the real you. Maya swallowed hard. I'm so sorry for my part in this deception. Your wedding was beautiful and you welcomed me like family. I never meant to hurt anyone. To everyone's surprise, Sophia pulled Maya into a hug. Thank you for making my brother happy, she whispered. That part better not be a lie. It's not, Maya assured her. I love him. Sophia pulled back, studying Maya's face. Good. Because if you break his heart, I'll come after you, children's book author or not. The tension in the room broke as laughter rippled around the table. Not everyone was immediately forgiving. James remained stiff and disapproving, and a few of the older relatives seemed confused by the whole situation. But the worst appeared to be over. As they prepared to leave later that afternoon, Aunt Patricia pulled Maya aside. You know, she said in her forthright manner, Marcus has always been brilliant at business but terrible at life. Too afraid of getting hurt to take real chances. She glanced across the room where Marcus was speaking with Michael. I haven't seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you since before his parents died. Don't let him retreat back into his work when things get difficult. Maya nodded, touched by the older woman's insight. I won't. I promise. The drive back to the city was quiet, both of them exhausted by the emotional day. That went better than I expected, Marcus finally said as they crossed the bridge into the city. Your sister is amazing, Maya replied. I'm not sure I would have been so forgiving in her position. Sophia has always been the best of us, Marcus agreed. But we still have a long way to go to rebuild trust. Maya reached across to place her hand on his knee. We'll get there. Together. That night, as they lay in Marcus's bed, the weight of secrets finally lifted from their shoulders. Maya felt a new peace settle between them. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, their worlds were still vastly different, and trust once broken took time to repair. But for the first time she truly believed they could make it work. What are you thinking? Marcus asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. Maya smiled in the darkness. That I'm glad I said yes to your ridiculous fake girlfriend scheme. He pulled her closer. Best business decision I ever made. You want me to what? Marcus stared at Maya across her small kitchen table, coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips. Maya calmly spread peanut butter on her toast. Move in with me. Here in my apartment. 3 months had passed since their confession to Marcus's family. Autumn had given way to winter, and their relationship had deepened despite the occasional bump along the way. They still divided their time between his penthouse and her apartment, but more and more of Marcus's things had migrated to Maya's cozy space. But Marcus looked around at the modest one-bedroom apartment with its overflowing bookshelves and mismatched furniture. Why here? My place is 4 times this size. Exactly, Maya said, taking a bite of her toast. Your place is beautiful, but it doesn't feel like a home. It feels like a luxury hotel suite. This place has character, history, and terrible water pressure, unreliable heating, and a neighbor who plays saxophone at midnight, Marcus pointed out. Maya grinned. Mr. Rodriguez is getting better. I barely notice the wrong notes anymore. Marcus set down his mug, studying her face. You're serious about this? I am, she confirmed. Just for 6 months. Think of it as an experiment. An experiment in what? How to cram a 6'2" man into a shower made for hobbits. Maya laughed, reaching for his hand across the table. An experiment in living in my world for a change. Ever since we met, I've been adapting to your life. Fancy restaurants, private jets, 5-star hotels. I want to know if you can be happy in a normal life too. Marcus frowned. You think I'm too dependent on luxury? I think, Maya said carefully, that you've never had to live without it. And I need to know that what's between us isn't dependent on the lifestyle you can provide. She squeezed his hand. 6 months, Marcus. Then we can reassess. He was quiet for a long moment, and Maya braced herself for refusal. But then he sighed, bringing her hand to his lips. Okay, he agreed. 6 months in the land of normal people. But I'm paying to fix that water heater. Maya grinned triumphantly. Deal. The following weekend, Marcus moved in with a surprising lack of belongings. His expensive suits were relegated to a small section of Maya's closet, his toiletries crowded her bathroom cabinet, and his laptop established residence on her tiny desk. Is this really all you're bringing? Maya asked, watching him unpack a single suitcase. Marcus shrugged. I realized most of what I own isn't particularly important to me. Clothes, electronics, they're just things. He pulled out a small wooden box. The only possessions I truly care about are in here. Inside the box were family photos, his father's watch, his mother's wedding ring, and several first-edition books that held sentimental value. Maya felt a surge of affection as she watched him carefully arrange these treasures on her bedside table. Welcome home, she said softly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. The first month of cohabitation was a study in contrast. Marcus, accustomed to housekeepers and private chefs, found himself learning to load a dishwasher and separate laundry. Maya, used to solitude and quiet, adjusted to having another person in her space constantly. There were arguments, about dirty dishes left in the sink, about Marcus's late-night work calls that woke Maya from sleep, about the proper way to squeeze toothpaste from the tube. But there was laughter too, and a deepening intimacy that came from sharing everyday life. One night, returning from a grocery run, Maya found Marcus sitting cross-legged on the living room floor surrounded by neighborhood children. He was reading aloud from her latest manuscript, doing different voices for each character while the children listened in rapt attention. Maya stood in the doorway, grocery bags forgotten in her hands, as warmth spread through her chest. The sight of this powerful businessman sitting on her threadbare rug, completely engrossed in entertaining children from the building, was more precious than any grand gesture he could have made. When the impromptu story time ended and the children had been collected by their parents, Marcus looked up to find Maya watching him. What? He asked, suddenly self-conscious. Did I mess up the story? No, she said, setting down the groceries to join him on the floor. You were perfect. When did all this happen? Mrs. Rodriguez from 3B had an emergency dentist appointment and asked if I could watch Miguel for an hour. Then Lisa from across the hall heard voices and brought over Emma and Noah, and it just snowballed from there. Maya leaned against him, resting her head on his shoulder. They liked the story? They loved it, Marcus assured her. Especially the part with the talking tree. Miguel asked if you could write a sequel where the tree has a dog friend. Maya laughed. I'll consider it. As they put away groceries together, Marcus seemed unusually thoughtful. What's on your mind? Maya asked, handing him a box of cereal to place on the top shelf she couldn't reach. I was thinking about opening a children's literacy foundation, he said casually. Funding libraries in underserved areas, sponsoring author visits to schools, that sort of thing. Maya paused, a carton of milk in her hand. That sounds amazing. What brought this on? Marcus shrugged, but his eyes were earnest. Seeing how those kids responded to your story today. Books changed your life when you were young. They should have that chance too. Maya set down the milk and wrapped her arms around him. I love you, she said simply. Enough to let me install a better shower head? He asked hopefully. Don't push your luck, Johnson. 2 months into their experiment, Marcus surprised Maya by cooking dinner, a skill he had been secretly learning from YouTube tutorials during his lunch breaks. The pasta was slightly overcooked and the sauce too garlicky, but Maya declared it the best meal she'd ever had. You know, she said as they washed dishes together afterward, you seem happier lately. Marcus considered this. I think I am. Work used to consume every waking moment. Now there's balance. I still love what I do, but I'm not defined by it anymore. Not everything about their living situation was ideal. Marcus's late meetings often kept him at the office until long after Maya had gone to bed. Her book deadlines sometimes meant days where she barely emerged from her writing fugue, communicating mainly in grunts and coffee demands. But they developed rhythms and routines that worked for them. Sunday mornings were sacred. No phones, no work, just lazy hours in bed followed by brunch at the local diner where they had become regulars. Tuesday evenings, Marcus joined Maya's book club, enduring discussions of romance novels with good-humored patience. Thursday nights, Maya accompanied Marcus to his boxing gym, where she was developing a surprisingly effective right hook. 4 months in, the inevitable tensions of their different worlds began to surface more sharply. Marcus was invited to a prestigious technology award ceremony where he would be receiving recognition for his company's innovations. The event was black tie, heavily covered by press, and attended by the elite of the business world. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," Maya fretted, looking through her closet of simple dresses and comfortable clothes. "We can go shopping," Marcus suggested. "Get you whatever you want." "That's not the point," Maya sighed, sitting on the edge of their bed. "I can buy a fancy dress, but I'll still feel out of place. These are your colleagues, your competitors. I don't know how to navigate that world." Marcus sat beside her, taking her hand. "You navigated my family beautifully, and they're far more intimidating than a bunch of tech nerds in expensive suits." Maya leaned against him. "Your family welcomed me because they thought I was making you happy. These people will be judging me, wondering what the great Marcus Johnson is doing with someone like me." "Someone like you?" Marcus repeated, his voice hardening. "You mean someone brilliant, talented, and beautiful who makes me happier than I've ever been?" "You know what I mean," Maya said quietly. "I'm not from your world. I don't have the right background, the right connections." Marcus turned to face her fully. "Maya, look at me. I don't care what anyone at that event thinks. I care about having you by my side. But if you're truly uncomfortable, I understand. I can go alone." The hurt in his eyes at the prospect made Maya's decision for her. "No, I'll go. But I reserve the right to hide in the bathroom if I get overwhelmed." "Deal?" Marcus said, kissing her forehead. "And I promise to rescue you if anyone corners you with boring tech talk." The night of the gala arrived, and Maya had to admit the dress she'd chosen, with Sophia's help, made her feel beautiful. The deep blue silk complemented her skin tone perfectly, and though the price tag had made her wince, Marcus had insisted it was worth every penny. As their car pulled up to the red carpet, photographers called out Marcus's name. Maya felt her palms sweat. "Ready?" Marcus asked, squeezing her hand. "As I'll ever be," she replied, taking a deep breath. The next few hours were a blur of introductions, polite conversations, and navigating the invisible social currents of high society. Maya stayed close to Marcus, who never left her side, his hand a reassuring presence at the small of her back. To her surprise, many people seemed genuinely interested in her work. A tech CEO's wife turned out to be a childhood literacy advocate who knew Maya's books and was enthusiastic about collaborating on future projects. An intimidating venture capitalist revealed himself to be a devoted grandfather who read to his grandchildren every weekend and wanted recommendations for new books. When Marcus was called to the stage to accept his award, Maya watched with pride as he spoke eloquently about innovation and responsibility. But it was the end of his speech that caught her by surprise. "None of this would mean anything without the right people to share it with," Marcus said, his eyes finding Maya in the crowd. "My partner, Maya Wilson, has taught me that success isn't measured in dollars or awards, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. Thank you, Maya, for showing me what really matters." The room erupted in applause and Maya felt tears threatening. As Marcus returned to their table, she rose to meet him with a kiss that probably violated the event's unspoken decorum guidelines. "That wasn't in the speech you practiced," she whispered against his lips. He smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Some things don't need rehearsal." Later that night, as they returned to their small apartment, Maya kicked off her heels with a groan of relief. "My feet are killing me. How do people do that regularly?" Marcus loosened his tie. "Years of practice and expensive insoles." Maya flopped onto their couch. "Well, I survived. And it wasn't as terrible as I feared." "You were amazing," Marcus said, sitting beside her and pulling her feet into his lap to massage them. "Everyone was charmed by you." Keep doing that and I might agree to another event someday," Maya murmured, eyes closing in pleasure. Marcus's hand stilled briefly. "Actually, there is something else coming up. A bit different though." Maya opened one eye. "How different?" "My Tokyo team is launching a new educational technology platform next month. I need to be there for the rollout." He resumed massaging her feet. "It would mean a lot if you came with me." Maya sat up straighter. "Back to Tokyo?" "For 2 weeks this time," Marcus confirmed. "I know it's a lot to ask with your writing schedule." "I'll come," Maya interrupted. "I've been wanting to go back. Our first trip was complicated. I'd like to make some better memories." Relief washed over Marcus's face. "Really? You're sure?" "Positive." She moved to straddle his lap, arms looping around his neck. "Besides, I'm pretty sure Mr. Rodriguez is planning a saxophone concerto next month. 2 weeks away sounds perfect." As Marcus carried her to bed that night, Maya reflected on how far they'd come in just a few short months. Her experiment had revealed sides of Marcus she might never have seen in his polished penthouse. His patience when teaching neighborhood kids to play chess, his unexpected talent for fixing leaky faucets, his ability to adapt to a life far removed from luxury. More importantly, they had found balance. Her world and his beginning to merge in ways that enriched them both. There were still challenges ahead, still adjustments to be made, but Maya was increasingly confident that what they had built together was strong enough to withstand them. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked as they lay tangled together in her small bed, moonlight streaming through the curtains she'd never gotten around to replacing. Maya smiled, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertip. "That this experiment is turning out better than I expected. Does that mean I can install a better water heater now?" She laughed, pinching his side. "Maybe after month 5. Don't get greedy, billionaire boy." Maya stared at the pregnancy test in her hand, the 2 pink lines unmistakable in the harsh bathroom light. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, her mind racing. This wasn't planned. They had been careful, mostly. But there had been that weekend at the beach house last month when caution had been forgotten in the heat of the moment. She and Marcus had been living together for just over 5 months, still in her apartment, though he had finally convinced her to allow some quality-of-life improvements, including a new shower and water heater. Their relationship had deepened, strengthened by the daily intimacies of shared space and routines. But a baby? That changed everything. Maya placed a protective hand over her still flat stomach. How would Marcus react? Children had never been a specific topic of discussion between them. They had talked vaguely about someday and the future, but nothing concrete. The sound of keys in the front door made her jump. Marcus was home early from his meeting. Quickly, Maya wrapped the test in tissue and tucked it into her pocket. She needed time to process this before telling him. "Maya?" Marcus called from the living room. "In here," she replied, splashing cold water on her face before stepping out of the bathroom. "You're home early." Marcus was loosening his tie, his suit jacket already draped over the back of a chair. Meeting ended ahead of schedule for once. He smiled, crossing to kiss her. "Everything okay? You look a little pale." "Just tired," Maya lied, hating the deception even as the words left her mouth. "Deadline stress." He nodded sympathetically. "I grabbed takeout from that Thai place you like. Thought we could eat early and then watch that movie you've been wanting to see." As they ate dinner, Maya found herself studying Marcus's face, trying to imagine his reaction to her news. Would he be excited? Terrified? Would this change push them closer together or reveal fundamental differences in what they wanted from life? "Earth to Maya," Marcus waved his hand in front of her face. "You haven't heard a word I've said for the last 5 minutes." "Sorry," she said, setting down her fork. "I'm just distracted." "Deadline that bad?" he asked, concern creasing his brow. Maya took a deep breath. This wasn't how she'd planned to tell him, but the secret felt too big to hold alone another minute. "It's not the deadline." She reached for his hand across the table. "Marcus, I'm pregnant." Time seemed to freeze as Marcus stared at her, his expression unreadable. 1 second stretched into 5, then 10. "You're pregnant?" he finally repeated, his voice strangely distant. "You're sure?" Maya nodded. "I took a test today. 2 lines. Pretty clear." He sat back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "Wow. I know it's a shock," Maya said, her voice trembling slightly. "It wasn't planned and we've never really talked about." "A baby," Marcus interrupted, still looking dazed. Then, slowly, his expression transformed. A smile spread across his face, brightening his eyes in a way Maya had never seen before. "We're having a baby?" Relief washed over her. "You're not upset?" "Upset?" Marcus stood, pulling her up into his arms. "Maya, it's unexpected, but—" He kissed her deeply, then rested his forehead against hers. "We're having a baby." Maya laughed, tears springing to her eyes. "We're having a baby," she confirmed. That night, they lay in bed talking for hours, imagining their future as parents. Marcus insisted on researching the best obstetricians in the city on his phone, while Maya wondered aloud how their tiny apartment would accommodate a crib. "We could move," Marcus suggested carefully. "Find a bigger place. Not necessarily back to my penthouse, but somewhere with more space. A real home for our family." The word family sent a thrill through Maya. They were going to be a family. "I'd like that," she agreed. "Somewhere with a nursery. Maybe a little yard." Marcus pulled her closer. "Whatever you want. Anything." In the following weeks, they toured apartments and houses throughout the city. Maya rejected the first few options Marcus suggested, luxury high-rises with doormen and concierge services, as too similar to his old life. Marcus found fault with several of Maya's preferences, citing safety concerns or poor school districts. "We're not going to agree if we stay at opposite extremes," Maya pointed out after a particularly frustrating day of house hunting. "Maybe we should both compromise a little?" The solution came unexpectedly when they visited a brownstone in a quiet neighborhood not far from Maya's current apartment. The three-story home had been divided into 2 units, a spacious 2-bedroom on the top floors and a small 1-bedroom garden apartment below. "It's perfect," Maya said as they toured the main unit. "Enough space for us and the baby but not ostentatious. And the garden apartment could be your writing studio," Marcus added, seeing the possibility. "A dedicated space away from crying babies when you need to work." The brownstone was hardly inexpensive, but it represented the middle ground they both needed, comfortable without being extravagant, in a community rather than isolated in luxury. They made an offer that afternoon. As Maya's pregnancy progressed, other aspects of their lives required similar balancing. Marcus wanted to hire a team of specialists, nutritionists, dualists, the best medical care money could buy. Maya insisted on a more grounded approach, choosing a well-recommended but not celebrity status obstetrician and attending regular prenatal yoga classes with other expectant mothers in the neighborhood. "I don't want to be treated like some fragile, precious object just because I'm carrying your child," she told him after he suggested hiring a personal chef to ensure her diet was optimal. "I'm still just Maya." Marcus struggled with this, his instinct to provide the very best battling with his respect for Maya's independence. They compromised. No personal chef but cooking classes for both of them to learn how to prepare healthier meals together. The most significant challenge came when they began discussing childcare and work arrangements after the baby's birth. "I don't see why you need to go back to work at all," Marcus said one evening as they painted the nursery a soft green. "You can write from home, set your own schedule." Maya set down her paintbrush. "Because my career matters to me. Because I've worked hard to establish myself as an author. Because I love what I do." "I understand that," Marcus insisted. "But surely your priorities will shift once the baby arrives." "My priorities will expand, not shift," Maya corrected. "I'll love our child more than anything, but that doesn't mean I stop loving my work too." Marcus sighed, dipping his brush back into the paint. "I just want to make things easier for you." "By suggesting I give up part of who I am?" Maya's tone softened. "Marcus, I know you mean well. But this isn't just about convenience or logistics. It's about who we are as people, as parents." Later that night as they lay in bed, Marcus turned to her. "My father was never home," he said quietly. "Always working, building the company. I barely knew him until I was old enough to join him at the office." Maya placed her hand on his cheek. "And you're afraid of being like him?" "Or worse," Marcus admitted. "At least he had one parent fully present. My mother dedicated her life to raising us. If we're both focused on careers." "That's a false choice," Maya said gently. "It's not all or nothing. We can both work and both be present parents. Millions of families do it every day." "Not in the world I grew up in," Marcus pointed out. "Then maybe we create a new model," Maya suggested. "One that works for us." The solution evolved over many conversations. Marcus would adjust his work schedule, delegating more responsibilities to his executive team. Maya would continue writing but scale back on promotional travel for the first year. They would share childcare duties equally with additional help as needed, not to replace their involvement but to support it. As Maya's due date approached, they settled into their newly renovated brownstone. The nursery was ready, painted green with a handcrafted wooden crib that Marcus had surprisingly built himself after taking woodworking classes. Maya's garden apartment studio was set up with a comfortable daybed for naps and a monitor connected to the nursery. With just 2 weeks to go, Marcus found Maya in the nursery one evening, sitting in the rocking chair with her hands on her swollen belly. "Everything okay?" he asked, coming to kneel beside her. Maya smiled. "The baby's kicking up a storm." She took his hand, placing it where he could feel the movements. "I think we have a future soccer player." Marcus's expression softened with wonder as he felt his child move beneath his palm. "Maya," he said suddenly, looking up at her. "Marry me." She blinked in surprise. "What?" "Marry me," he repeated, more confidently. "I know we've never really talked about it, but I love you. I want us to be a family in every sense." "We already are a family," Maya said softly. "Marriage is just a piece of paper." Marcus shook his head. It's more than that to me. It's a promise. A commitment. I want to stand in front of everyone we care about and pledge myself to you and our child. Maya studied his face, seeing the earnestness there. Is this just because of the baby? Because we don't need to rush into marriage for that reason. No, Marcus said firmly. I've been thinking about this for months. Actually, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this around, waiting for the right moment. He opened the box to reveal a ring, not the ostentatious diamond she might have expected, but a simple band of rose gold with a small, perfect emerald. It was my grandmother's, Marcus explained. My mother always said it should go to the woman who truly captured my heart. Tears filled Maya's eyes. It's beautiful. Is that a yes? Marcus asked, hope and uncertainty mingling in his voice. Maya laughed through her tears. Yes. Of course it's a yes. The ring fit perfectly on her swollen finger as Marcus slipped it on, sealing the moment with a kiss. No elaborate wedding, Maya warned as they broke apart. Nothing flashy or excessive. Marcus grinned. How about we elope? Just us and whoever we want there. Somewhere beautiful and quiet. After the baby, Maya stipulated. I'm not walking down any aisle waddling like a duck. You're the most beautiful duck I've ever seen, Marcus teased, earning himself a gentle swat on the arm. Their son, Thomas James Johnson, arrived 2 weeks later, red-faced and squalling with impressive lungs. The birth was long and difficult, but Maya emerged triumphant, a fierce, primal pride in her accomplishment as she held their child for the first time. Marcus, who had stayed by her side throughout the entire labor, looked shell-shocked and reverent as he cradled his son in his arms. He's perfect, he whispered. Absolutely perfect. The first few months were a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and profound joy. They discovered new dimensions to their relationship as they navigated parenthood together. Marcus revealing unexpected patience during colicky midnight hours, Maya demonstrating resilience through the physical demands of recovery and breastfeeding. True to his word, Marcus reduced his work hours dramatically, arranging to work from home 2 days a week and never staying at the office past 6. Maya began writing during Thomas's naps, sometimes producing only a paragraph a day but steadily advancing her next book. They developed systems and routines, learning to tag-team baby care with the practiced coordination of professional athletes. Their differing approaches sometimes caused friction, Marcus relying on the latest technology and expert advice, Maya more intuitive and flexible. But these differences ultimately complemented each other. 6 months after Thomas's birth, on a perfect spring morning, Maya and Marcus were married in the garden of his family's estate. The ceremony was small and intimate, with only their closest friends and family present. Thomas, dressed in a tiny suit, was carried down the aisle by Sophia as the honorary ring bearer. Maya wore a simple ivory dress that flowed around her still curvy post-pregnancy body. Marcus couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked toward him on Michael's arm, her face radiant with happiness. Their vows were personal and heartfelt, acknowledging the unusual beginning of their relationship and the journey that had brought them to this moment. From fake to forever, Marcus said, causing laughter to ripple through their small audience. As they celebrated afterward with a casual luncheon on the lawn, Aunt Patricia sidled up to Maya. You know, the older woman said, sipping champagne, when Marcus first introduced you as Claire, I knew something wasn't quite right. You were too genuine for the type of women he usually dated. Maya laughed. You never said anything. I was waiting to see how it played out, Patricia admitted with a wink. I had a feeling about you too even then. Later, as they danced under white twinkle lights strung through the trees, Marcus held Maya close. Happy? He asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. Completely, she assured him. Though I'm looking forward to our honeymoon. They had arranged a family trip to a quiet beach house, hardly the exotic getaway many would expect for a billionaire's honeymoon, but perfect for them. A place where Thomas could play on the sand, where they could take long walks together, where the simple pleasures of family life could unfold without distractions. Mrs. Johnson, Marcus murmured in her ear. I like the sound of that. Ms. Wilson Johnson professionally, Maya corrected with a smile. But yes, I like it too. As the evening wound down, they gathered Thomas from Sophia's arms and prepared to head home. Their son was sleeping peacefully, one tiny hand clutching his favorite stuffed elephant. Look at what we made, Marcus said softly as they buckled Thomas into his car seat. A whole person. A family. Maya leaned against his side, contentment washing over her. From fake girlfriend to real wife and mother. Not exactly how I planned my life to go. Any regrets? Marcus asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. Maya stood on tiptoe to kiss him. Not a single one. 5 years later. Daddy, watch me. Thomas called, his little legs pumping furiously as he pedaled his bike across the brownstone's small backyard. Marcus looked up from the grill where he was cooking burgers, his face breaking into a proud smile. Looking good, buddy? Keep both hands on the handlebars, remember? Maya emerged from the house carrying a tray of condiments and their 2-year-old daughter, Lily, perched on her hip. Lily squirmed to get down as soon as she spotted her brother. Careful with your sister, Thomas, Maya cautioned as she set Lily on her feet. The little girl toddled determinedly toward her big brother, dark curls bouncing with each step. It was a perfect summer evening, warm but not hot, with a gentle breeze stirring the leaves of the oak tree that dominated their small garden. Friends and family would be arriving soon for their annual barbecue, a tradition they had started 3 years ago. Maya set the tray on the patio table and wrapped her arms around Marcus from behind, pressing a kiss between his shoulder blades. Need any help? He turned, spatula in hand, to steal a proper kiss. Nope. Just enjoying the view. Maya smiled, looking around their yard where toys were scattered among carefully tended flower beds. It is pretty great, isn't it? Their life had settled into a rhythm that somehow accommodated both stability and spontaneity. Marcus still ran Johnson Tech, but with a dramatically different approach than before. He had restructured the company to allow for more delegation, implemented generous family leave policies for all employees, and established a foundation focused on childhood literacy that Maya helped direct. Maya had published 3 more books in her children's series, which had grown increasingly popular. She wrote primarily from her garden studio but traveled occasionally for book events and school visits, sometimes taking the whole family along for mini adventures. They were comfortable rather than wealthy by Marcus's former standards. After Thomas's birth, Marcus had made the surprising decision to donate the majority of his fortune to various charitable foundations, keeping enough to ensure his family's security but not so much that their children would grow up with distorted values. I want them to understand the value of work, of earning things, he had explained to Maya. Not just expecting everything to be handed to them because of their last name. The decision had raised eyebrows in business circles but had ultimately earned Marcus respect for his principles. It had also freed him from the burden of excessive wealth, allowing him to focus on what truly mattered: his family, meaningful work, and giving back to the community. Their brownstone had become a gathering place for an eclectic mix of friends, authors and illustrators from Maya's publishing world, tech innovators and entrepreneurs from Marcus's sphere, and neighbors who had become like extended family. Thomas and Lily were growing up surrounded by diverse perspectives and experiences, exactly as their parents had hoped. The garden gate opened and Sophia and Michael entered, their own 3-year-old twins running immediately to play with Thomas and Lily. We brought wine and dessert, Sophia announced, hugging Maya while Michael clapped Marcus on the shoulder. More guests arrived: Aunt Patricia with her new gentleman friend, Maya's best friend Layla and her husband, neighbors from across the street, colleagues who had become friends. The garden filled with laughter and conversation as children played and adults caught up on each other's lives. As dusk fell, Marcus lit the string lights that crisscrossed the garden. Maya watched him move among their guests, so different from the rigid, work-obsessed man she had met 6 years ago. He was relaxed, present, genuinely engaged with the people around him. Later, after the children had been put to bed and the last guests had departed, Maya and Marcus sat together on the porch swing, a light blanket draped across their laps against the cooling night air. Good day, Marcus said, his arm around her shoulders. The best, Maya agreed, leaning into his warmth. Though Thomas informed me earlier that he's going to be a computer maker like Daddy when he grows up. I thought you were pushing books these days. Marcus laughed. I caught him reading to Lily yesterday. He had my old engineering textbook upside down and was making up a story about robot princesses. So he gets it honestly, Maya mused. The best of both of us. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the gentle creaking of the swing the only sound in the quiet garden. Do you ever think about how we started? Marcus asked suddenly. The whole fake girlfriend scheme? Maya smiled against his shoulder. Sometimes. It seems like another lifetime. I was such an idiot, Marcus said, shaking his head. Thinking I could control everything, plan everything. Lying to protect people I loved, not realizing the damage dishonesty can do. You've learned a few things since then, Maya acknowledged with a gentle squeeze of his hand. The biggest lesson being that the best things in life are the ones you don't plan for, Marcus said, turning to look at her in the soft glow of the porch light. You. Our children. This life we've built together. Speaking of unplanned, Maya said, sitting up slightly. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you something. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Why do I feel like I know what's coming? Maya laughed. Because you've gotten much better at reading me over the years. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. Baby number 3. Due in January. Joy spread across Marcus's face as he pulled her into a tight embrace. Maya Wilson Johnson, you continue to make me the happiest man alive. Even though we'll have to convert your home office into another nursery, she teased. Worth every square foot, he assured her, kissing her deeply. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Marcus propped himself up on one elbow to look at his wife. Her face in repose was as beautiful to him now as it had been the day she walked into his office, offering to play the part of his fictional girlfriend. What are you staring at? Maya murmured without opening her eyes. Just thinking how lucky I am that you said yes that day, Marcus replied softly. Which day? When you hired me? When you asked me to stay in Tokyo? When you proposed? All of them, he said. Every yes that led us here. Maya opened her eyes, reaching up to touch his face. Best yes I ever said. Outside their window, the city continued its nighttime rhythm. Inside their brownstone, their children slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that they were loved beyond measure. And in the quiet of their bedroom, Marcus and Maya held each other close, grateful for the lie that had ultimately led them to the most honest love either had ever known. As Maya drifted towards sleep in her husband's arms, she thought about the story of their beginning, how a billionaire's need for a fake wife had led to something profoundly real and lasting. Perhaps someday she would write that story. But for now she was content to simply live it, day by day, in the beautiful life they had created together.